Hi, I'm Rob Vanstone, and welcome to the 65th edition of the Leader Post Rider Rumblings podcast. Each week we pick rider uniform numbers from today or yesteryear that correspond with the number of the podcast. So number 65, current Rough Rider Taryn Vaughn, Ben Heenan, 2013 Grey Cup champion, first overall pick in the CFL draft the previous year, and the great Bill Baker, who before wearing 76 for the Rough Riders wore number 65. That's but a few of them. So there, number 65. Murray McCormick, as always, is with us, and we're very pleased today. Not that we're not pleased to have you with us, Murray. But
3 years away from 65, so I guess that's pretty bad. Pretty good.
Oh, you're so young.
Should I say that?
I'm thinking of all sorts of catty things to say here.
Warren Woods is 65.
Warren Woods is 65 today, so happy birthday.
And looks every day of it.
And yesterday was my parents' 65th wedding anniversary. Unfortunately, my father passed away June 1st, 82. Early in rider training camp. So, but mom and dad were married 65 years ago today in England, or yesterday in England. Jamie Nye from the Green Zone, CKOM, CJME, Lumsden, legend. Jamie, thank you so much for being
mean streets of Lumsden, Saskatchewan.
They still have that old 60s like retro cafe there. Do you remember that one?
No, they don't.
So they have streets or just street?
Streets in Lumsden.
Are there?
Were you a Lumsden Devil?
Yes, I was. Basketball, not the football
Were
team.
you the center?
Yeah, right.
Small town, you know.
And he's also a former jazz musician, I understand.
Yes, baritone sax.
So you were a saxophonist.
Yes.
Once upon a time. So
The Great Shark Hunt was one of my favorites.
Well, Murray doesn't like jazz. Our producer Mark Melichuk doesn't like jazz, but Jamie and I do. So, before this program is through, we're going to play some baritone sax. So I'm going to find some Jerry Mulligan. So we won't get a mulligan for that one. Let's talk football. Riders are heading into the Labor Day Classic against Winnipeg. I'm not sure it will be a classic considering the depletion of personnel on the Bombers, and of course that leads us into Andrew Harris. Anybody want to pick up on that and start us rolling?
I'm not writing off the Labor Day Classic yet because in spite of all the things that have happened in Winnipeg, they still have a pretty darn good defense. And the Riders, if you look, still have a young quarterback with doing quite well, going to have to go against a defense with a guy, Richie Hall, who kind of leans towards that bend, don't break style of defense. And that seems to be the style that Cody Fajardo might have the most difficulty with. So I'm not writing off the fact it won't be a classic. The Riders have a good defense. And I think the Bombers are going to be missing Harris, obviously, and so Matt Nichols, and now Chris Matthews.
Darvin Adams.
You can list them all. And Chris Matthews, who was cut this morning.
Who hasn't really 12 catches in 6 games.
Yeah,
isn't hard to replace.
No, so he got replaced. But I still think if there's a possibility of a classic there, I just kind of think Winnipeg's defense is going to step up in the ride. This is going to be among the tests. We've always talked about tests. I think this is going to be the biggest test for the Riders. And it's Captain Obvious stepping up, but I really think the defense is going to be a challenge for the Riders.
Well, I think the Riders are going to win.
Really?
It's Labor Day Classic. They usually
always do. Yeah.
The odds are, really bold prediction to pick the Riders in the Labor Day Classic, especially with Chris Streveler and whoever's running the ball instead of Andrew Harris. But I am with Murray, though. That is a deep Bomber team, and they were able to survive. Everybody wrote them off against Edmonton, and Chris Streveler only completed 7 passes. But you never know. Rocky Butler won a Labor Day game as a backup quarterback running the ball like Chris Streveler can. And if he can do that and really mix up the Rider defense, then, well, of course there's a chance for the Bombers. And Willie Jefferson, we saw him take over a game. He'll be revved up to go against the Riders again. His former team. So I think it's maybe a little closer than a lot of people in Saskatchewan now are thinking, oh, yeah, this is going to be a clean sweep of Labor Day and the Banjo Bowl, and I understand why. But that Bomber team and Mike O'Shea, there's something going there, and they continue to roll against the Edmonton Eskimos.
Still, I was actually going to pick Winnipeg to win until the Andrew Harris situation. The Riders have not proven yet that they can beat an elite team. Now, as currently constituted, I'm not sure you can call the Winnipeg Blue Bombers an elite team because they're missing their best receiver, their starting quarterback, and probably the best player in the league.
I can't hide from winning 8 of their 10 games, and how do you keep them out of elite, regardless of how they got there?
No Andrew Harris, though?
Yeah, but they're still I still think they're an elite team. They're just missing some pretty
Johnny
important parts.
Augustine makes them an elite team?
Well, I still think they are. I don't think you can write them off yet. I still think Mike O'Shea and the depth's going to be there. Next
I
man
think
up.
I think Nick Dembski will be a big
Yep.
big piece of this offense now. Another Canadian who they've given the ball to a lot and a lot of targets and a lot of touches that they can try to establish. Darvin Adams, he might be able to come off the 6th game now that they cut Chris Matthews. That might actually be happening going into the Labor Day game. So I think there's still plenty of weapons there in Winnipeg, and it's all up to Jason Shivers' defense. If Jason Shivers, they saw what happened last week in Edmonton, they should be way more prepared than Edmonton was for this option, high school offense that they're running in Winnipeg. And I think with the playmakers the Riders have on defense and the speed they have on defense, they should be able to contain Chris Streveler.
Well, if you look at Cameron Judge and if you look at Derek Moncrief, either of them or both of them should be able to take care of Chris Streveler's running, you would think.
Oh, you're shadowing him.
And after that, what is left?
Oh, yeah.
He can't throw, and if he can't run, and if he doesn't have his best running back, like, what prospect is there of moving the ball if the Rough Riders can do what Edmonton somehow failed to do and contain or eliminate the only thing that Chris Streveler can do?
And they have to do it early. If Winnipeg starts gaining momentum, that's bad news. But they need Moncrief, Judge, whoever it is. I don't think it'll be Solomon Elamimian. I think it's one of those two who just shadow Chris Streveler. Your job is to watch number 17, and you go where he goes. And that's how you're going to win. Maybe it's Mike Edom, the safety, and really maybe go man-to-man and, okay, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to throw against us. That's the only way.
Yeah.
And even the media in Winnipeg is going, if they make Chris Streveler throw the ball, there's no chance they're going to win in Saskatchewan.
Well, coaches always say, or defensive coaches always say, we want to make the opponent one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Well, this is a team that's already entering the game being one-dimensional. How do you not stop them? It's on a platter, isn't it?
Should be.
Should be. And if the Riders come out like they did against Ottawa, I'm not saying Dominique Davis is the Streveler's league. 3 picks in the first.
They might be comparable throwing the ball.
Might be comparable, but what could they did that the first quarter against Ottawa? Like, even regarding Ottawa's record and their struggles, so that defense came out and they were ready for them. Like, those are 3 great picks. You watch them again. You watched the last game against Montreal when they came out in the first quarter, in the first half, how strong. So I think Shivers is ready. He's going to come out. He's going to pressure Streveler, and I think, I don't know. I think Cameron Judge will be more of the shadow guy because I think Moncrief's too valuable in pass coverage to waste him on the quarterback.
I mean, maybe it's a combination of. Depends on.
And don't rate off Aluminium. Aluminium is getting better. Aluminium. Okay, don't ask me to say other names.
He knows how to spell it.
I know how to spell it. Yeah, which is, and I kept saying before, it's a dyslexic's nightmare. Aluminium. But he's coming on. He's playing better. He's contributing more, and I think the fact that the Riders are without Micah Johnson and Zach Evans and are still doing pretty well on defense is really a testament to the depth in this team. And guys have said when we were in the locker room after the Ottawa game, Jeremy O'Day deserves some credit. The free agents he's signed, the players he's brought in, the players he's kept. I don't think he's getting enough credit for what the position the Riders are now, and I think they're right. We've got to look at what Jerry Dana did in the offseason. Signing Cody Fajardo, we all wondered why. We spent the whole offseason wondering why. We spent 3 plays of the regular season wondering why, and then he's shown why he has. So.
If he doesn't sign Cody Fajardo, we're already playing very somber music on this podcast.
Exactly.
It's over.
Yeah, who knows what Isaac Harker would be doing as the backup or any other of the veterans that might have been out there to, you saw what Winnipeg was looking at in Brandon Bridge and Drew Willie to possibly come in. It's slim pickings. And Cody Fajardo, to his credit, he won in training camp. You remember Craig Dickinson right away said Fajardo was owning this spot right now in Saskatchewan, and he's proving why on the football field. And that one, you can credit Jeremy O'Day because he picked him, as he said. He won in college. He's a winner. And I want to sign winning quarterbacks who know how to win. You're seeing that in Montreal. Vernon Adams is a winner. It might be ugly sometimes, but he knows in crunch time how to win games. He proved it in college. He's proven it again in the CFL.
I love that touchdown pass, that play where he did the spin and then rolled out and found Naaman Roser. What a mature, athletic move by a quarterback. really, have we seen a touchdown like that recently, Rob? Like that much athleticism involving a
It
quarterback.
would have been Darian Durant, the way he used to shed blitzers.
But even the fact that
he's rolling to his left and he threw the ball with authority. That's a tough throw.
Yeah. And to a receiver, it was open. Give credit to Naaman catching it. But.
And an accurate spot, too. He threw it down and away, which in that position is the only way that you know it's only going to be the receiver who catches that ball.
If you watch the 66 Grey Cup, Hugh Campbell made a catch like that on the 5-yard line right before the Hugh Campbell touchdown that proved to be the winner. Ronnie didn't scramble quite as much, but that's the same point on the field and the same throw right down low where only Hugh Campbell could get it. And the next play, the Riders scored a touchdown that broke at 14, all tie in the Grey Cup.
So there you go. Cody Fajardo, Ron Lancaster.
Yeah,
Here we go.
And we already mentioned Kevin
But the
Glenn.
throw is scary. I'm going to see if I can talk to our producer, Mark Melnichuk, and find the image of that throw so that we can put it in the podcast, because it's Hugh Campbell down low on the left side of the field, except at the 5-yard line, except at Empire Stadium.
How about a what-if question? Where are they without Cody Fajardo? Can you even imagine?
Well, I mean, who's to say that Isaac Harker couldn't have done what Cody Fajardo's done? Because if Jeremy O'Day had that touch with Cody Fajardo, maybe they saw something in Isaac Harker as well. But Cody Fajardo's got 3 years of CFL experience, and Isaac Harker's right out of the Colorado School of Mines. Go Broncos!
Remember, in the first week and a half of this season, there are plenty of fans who preferred Isaac Harker from what they saw in game number 1.
And there's still some out there.
Yeah.
I got a letter the other day from a guy who said, "What about Isaac Harker?" And I'm going, thank you for your
Are you
help.
watching?
Yeah, thank you for your
It goes way back to a few years ago when Corey Chamberlain was asked, what do you want to see out of Drew Willie in week 1? And he says, hopefully nothing, because he was the backup quarterback. And that's where that's what I'm looking at too, is what do you think about Isaac Harker? Well, if you're the Riders, hopefully nothing, because you don't want Cody Fajardo limping off the field. And because remember a few weeks ago when he was, and I think there was a lot of hearts that dropped in Saskatchewan watching Cody Fajardo limp off the field, although the toughness and the sprinkle of Jesus and the corn dogs got him back on the field.
And it's neat too, just what a personality he's become. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's obviously already been a personality, but now everybody's seeing it. Just the excitement that he exudes, and the way I think people are buying into everything that he's saying and doing.
But even like his religiousness it's cool. It's not like lording.
He's not saying I'm better than you. He's not being holier than thou. He's not being pious. No. He's being genuine. He's being himself, and it's endearing.
And the sprinkle, it shows the ability to a little bit of like laugh at himself a little bit too, to not take himself serious. Because I told Warren Woods when I saw that pass from Cody to Naaman, I said, that's the right hand of God. That's not a sprinkle of Jesus. And Warren laughed.
Why didn't you use the dollop of Jesus quote, by the way? That was such a great quote, and you got it. Why didn't you use it?
I don't know. I forget why.
Dollop of Jesus.
Dollop of Jesus was such a great quote.
I appreciated what he said about what he was talking about his religion, in saying, I don't think God is cheering for wins and losses. Yeah. And I don't think he's ever credited God with a win or anything like that. But I appreciated that from him. Being able to look at the big picture and knowing how religion sounds to people, because I know there's so many that roll their eye right when someone mentions God in a post-game interview. Like, oh, here we go. Yeah. He says, all I pray about is health. That's all I pray for. I don't pray about wins and losses, because I know God doesn't care.
And he's grateful for the opportunity to play the game, and that factors into it too. And Kerry Joseph was the same way. Kerry's a very devout person, but he never said, well, God threw that touchdown pass, or God wanted us to win. And you get athletes doing that, and it's like, okay, does that mean that God didn't want the other team to win? There's Christians on both teams, presumably. I don't think he's playing favorites, but sometimes you get those type of athletes where God wanted that field goal to go through. We've heard those quotes, and it's just no. But I think the way Cody Fajardo does it, just like the way Kerry Joseph does it, it's perfect. That's them. They're not being themselves if they don't discuss their spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of things, spirituality we'll take out of this story. Like we won't. Some guys say, "Praise God, thank you." We won't put that even in quote, even mention it. But Cody has been prominently featured in that, and that's maybe the sign that we take it. He's sincere in the fact that he's not cheering for wins or losses. He's cheering for the health, and he's cheering for something else, I guess. But
Andrew Harris, what do you make of all that?
Oh, back to your first question.
Oh, man. I go back and forth, to be honest with you. Like, for what I know of the guy, and I don't know particularly well. I didn't think he would ever be a cheater, and I think he legitimately might have taken a supplement that wasn't clean. But if I'm a professional athlete and my job depends on being clean, I'm not buying a supplement that's not cleared. And I wonder, in that word, maybe the CFL's got to step up, and maybe because more these guys who get sponsorships, they get supplements that are cleared, that they know they're clean. He bought a supplement, from what I understand, from a grocery store or something, or from
a natural health food store or something.
It wasn't cleared by the CFL, so he took a chance on something that's not being clean. And I wonder, maybe because there's not as many supplement sponsors in the CFL as there used to be, maybe they need the CFL needs to step up and say, here are your clean supplements, avoid these other ones. Because I think, I don't know, did he purposely take it? I think there's such a small amount in there. I don't know if you can say that.
But the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport, they have all that information.
Yeah.
They have the supplements and all those things. If you ask for it, here's a list of what you can take. Even if you're not taking those, as a pro athlete who's being drug tested, you're stupid. Look what he cost himself. He cost himself his reputation, his team chances in 2 huge games in the division. That's dumb. That is not looking being a part of a team. Is if you're going to go to a health food store, ask for advice on what supplement to take to benefit whichever way Andrew Harris wanted to get benefited, which is how he kind of put it in his news conference. And you go, well, is this approved? I don't know. It looks at the ingredients. Like, you know what all those technical terms mean, and he gets caught on it. And you'd like to trust Andrew Harris because he's never been caught before, but can you really trust athletes anymore? And that's where I talk about his credibility takes a shot, his team gets a shot, because he was dumb on that one. He's not a dumb guy, but in that decision, that was a dumb decision.
How does it get contaminated?
Well, you ever seen the list of ingredients on supplements too?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good reading, and it's not exactly in big type.
And you can go to the athletic therapist too and say, hey, I think I want to take this. What do you think?
What does goat horn do for me? Yeah, maybe it's something.
Are you on goat horn again?
Yeah.
Is there a goat horn?
I thought it was elks. Wasn't it elk horn or something?
Or moose antlers or whatever.
You'll get an email.
But you could even buy stuff that says tainted by maybe been made near peanuts and stuff like that. Yeah. So you have to be aware of that, because if you have peanut allergies, that's part maybe on this says maybe. But also, wasn't it a steroid that's from like the 1980s? Like this, Dan, it wasn't exactly a recent one.
I'm celiac. I can't, so I look at the ingredients. If it says may contain wheat, not for me, I'm not going to use it. Yeah. Most of the stuff I use says gluten-free, or everything else, I look it up and to the actual company, and is this gluten-free?
Yep.
Because I know I can't put that stuff in my body, and I'm not going to just, this looks all right. I'll just take that.
That's why I go back and forth. He's dumb, but he's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So dumb.
Well, he's not dumb.
That was not
a smart decision.
No,
he himself is a very intelligent person.
Andrew Harris
and he was great for the league. And I have to admit, when I read that email, I went, said a bad word, because here's a guy thinking everything he's done everything right. Junior football, came from a tough background. He's on the running for MOP without a doubt.
Would you still vote for him?
I know. I listened to your show the other day, and I'm going, geez, Jamie, I thought, I can put it aside. And I said, I don't know if I can. And it's going to be.
I can't.
I can't.
I think the reputation of the league in 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, could look terrible. The season he gets tested for a steroid, he wins MOP, and maybe it does come out that he was cheating for much of his career. It's those type of stories. We've been burned by Lance Armstrong. We've been burned by these great athletes who were lauded for their great athleticism, where like this, especially this year. Next year, if he's clean, I'll vote for him again. But this year, I can't do it. I can't do, even if he has a record-breaking season, I don't know if I can do it.
Arash Madani had some interesting tweets, and I was wondering about this as soon as this happened, because he's been Andrew Harris has had such a workload, and it was only going to intensify without Matt Nichols and the threat of a passing game, where you're looking at 25, 30 touches a game for Andrew Harris as long as Matt Nichols is gone, you would think. And maybe with Matt Nichols there, the same situation would have prevailed. But with all the talk about load management, could this actually in the long run be beneficial to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as much as pivotal as these two games are in terms of the horse race in the West Division. If you're talking November and there's 50 hits that you're not taking, and then they've got the bye week, I believe, after that. If you can get a rest in the middle of the season, could this ultimately work for the Bombers?
I think they prefer
benefit?
to have them on the field than dealing with this situation, though, Rob.
No, but I mean, come November, if you've got a fresher Andrew Harris.
The silver lining of this for Winnipeg is a lot fresher Andrew Harris, especially in October when they're back in Saskatchewan, and what could be another 1 versus 2 battle atop the West Division.
I mean, it's the NFL is currently, for a while now, has been talking about the merits of an 18-game regular schedule and a regular season schedule and the rigors of the game as it currently stands in the United States with a 16-game schedule, while the CFL plays 18 and has since 1986. So is there a case? Maybe you think, well, they could have load managed Andrew Harris against Toronto or Ottawa, but as it is this just ultimately could it help them if you're talking November as opposed to the first weekend of September?
Yeah, but those take you out of first place, so I don't think it helps them. Like, I think they come. Whoever wins these next 2 games are probably going to finish first in the West, unless it's a split.
I still kind of think it's a split.
I should say that. As soon as my brain kicks in, unless it's a split.
And they play a third time too. Which
yes, I know. But I've seen so many banjo bowls after Labor Day Classics. You go, Jesus, the Riders are the same team. They even put the same uniforms on.
Well, here's the thing, though. You look at the Riders' schedule. I can't decide whether it's schedule or schedule. It's back to shul next week. But,
what?
Sorry.
What was that? Okay.
That was a good joke. I like that.
Okay.
What excellent point was I going to make there? If you look at the Riders' schedule over the second half of the season, it's very road-weighted. Not only that, they've got 3 road games in a row at one point, I believe for the first time since 1974. So they've got to take advantage.
Classic.
They've got to take advantage of the opportunities while they can to play at home, because that's not a friendly schedule down the stretch. When you look at where they're playing and who they're playing, all the free spaces are gone, except maybe the game in Toronto.
That's where I'm looking at is I kind of look at this schedule and say, okay, you got Winnipeg without Andrew Harris and Matt Nichols. That's beneficial. Then you got Toronto, Montreal. Montreal is here. So I think, okay, can they stretch this to a 9-game winning streak going into their final 5, which is Winnipeg, and then on the road, Calgary, BC, and then the home and home against the Edmonton Eskimos. And I really think there's a chance, and maybe 50-50 chance, this team's hosting the West Final. I think with this schedule, BC has not looked good. I still think Calgary's not that great, and Edmonton looks like they have blemishes that you can take advantage of, as Chris Streveler and the Bombers showed. I think Winnipeg and Saskatchewan seem like not destined, but seem like they're on a collision course to play either here or in Winnipeg for the West Final.
What about when Bo Levi gets back in Calgary, though?
That's going to change.
Calgary still, to me, don't underestimate Calgary.
I get that, but I'm not convinced that Bo Levi Mitchell can end this season with that injury, the pectoral muscle, and be 100%.
Even if you look at the July 6th game here, though, 37-10, Nick Arbuckle's first start. He's a better quarterback now than he was then. Calgary, to me, if you disregard Calgary at your own peril.
What about the BC Lions?
Disregard the BC. I should have mentioned them when I was talking about the free spaces.
Is that? I know it kind of takes a bit. Is that the worst team you've seen? Can that be the worst team?
No, I saw the 79 Roughriders.
That's true too, but that's
the
worst team in recent.
I saw the 99 Roughriders.
The 2015 Riders in Ottawa may have been the worst. Team
that was
I've ever
very
seen
reminiscent about the Lions when you.
Oh my goodness! Talk about a bunch of guys who gave up on their coach, and that's what Devon Claybrooks is dealing with in BC. And
so what did they do? Did they get rid of him?
How do you do it with this coach's cap or this football operations cap?
I think Devon Claybrooks' biggest mistake was hiring a lot of his buddies who've never coached before. You look at that coaching staff, and I know Marcus Howell and Rich Stubler are 2 veteran guys, but when you're talking about Brian Chu and Nick Lewis and Ryan Phillips and Drew Tate, it's okay. You formed a pretty good roster for a CFL team in 2010, but is this a coaching staff? No, I think that was his biggest flaw. Is he trusted a lot of his friends to come in and help them out and be good coaches. They look disorganized and not prepared. And I think it's a lot because of a rookie coaching staff, more or less. A lot of veteran Hall of Fame guys on that coaching staff, but that doesn't mean you're a good coach. Just ask Wayne Gretzky.
Sorry, Bar.
Our esteemed columnist Brendan Tam and I were talking before the season, and I was leaning heavily towards the Lions. He said, "Don't go that way. Their coaching staff's is so bad it's going to catch up to them."
Look at Toronto. That's a lot of the same coaching staff that got Corey Chamberlain and Brendan Tammon fired.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a strong coaching staff. A lot of that was here in 2015.
And you can't gas them because of the coaches cap.
Well, do you think there's going to be a football cap next season? I know they can discuss it. I thought it was supposed to be 1 or 2 years, but
if David Braley, who's propped up this league for so long, and is still propping up a team that cannot be, it has to be losing tons of money. If David Braley says, "Look, I want to fire X, and have the latitude to do so without being penalized by the cap," what's the league going to say to David Braley? If the Toronto Argonauts decide they want to make a move and they're so pivotal to the league and they want to clean house again, and then there's talk about Jim Pop's future. How does, and if the owner says, "Well, if we can't do that, we're just going to take our ball and go home." How do you stand up to that?
And
this could be a 1-year provision.
And it puts teams in
we know
peril.
what was put in. We all know
it was
why.
the Chris Jones rule.
Chris Jones rule, yeah, and Chris Jones is gone and probably never coming back.
And what did he do? He signed his coaching staff to extensions the week before he went to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Took care of his guys, knowing, okay, they're locked in. There's a coaching cap. You can't even fire them anymore. Bye. Now, I'm not saying Craig Dickinson would have wanted a new staff. You came from that staff, but I think it put Jeremy O'Day in a tough position.
And they were all making enough money that, let's say they took a 10% pay cut. It was a shave. It wasn't a cut.
Yep.
So that's kind of some of the other coaches, and like I'm thinking John Murphy at the time, it was a pretty sizable cut for him, and he wasn't willing to take
He
that.
brought in a lot of these players.
Yep. He did bring a lot of these players.
But I don't know if John Murphy actually brought in a lot of these players. I think he'd like you to think that he brought in a lot of these
Well,
players.
he certainly had a role in Derek Moncrief coming here.
That's what I was going to ask you. Of the players they've brought in, taking Cody Fajardo out of the equation, who's the most impactful player for the Riders this season that's been brought in of the free agents?
Well, all players are brought in at some point. You
It's
mean
exact-
in by the Chris Jones
No,
administration?
let's say by the Jeremy O'Day administration.
Well, it would have to be Fajardo. He's
William
the only
Powell?
one.
William Powell.
William Powell
Yeah, I'm
is.
saying we know
Yep.
Fajardo, but let's say if we take Fajardo out of the equation.
Well, Solomon Elimimian has started to pick up his game down the middle. I don't think he's not making the impact of Cam Judge and Derek Moncrief, but I can tell you Solomon Elimimian and what he's doing in the middle is helping Derek Moncrief, Cam Judge play as well as they are, and give them the latitude to play as fast as they are, because they're not making up for any mistakes in the middle.
And nobody's running the ball on them with any sustained effectiveness.
And that
So this is a defense we thought would take steps back, and took a few. But now, do you think it's playing at the level that it was? It's not getting the turnovers for touchdowns, and I know I'm not putting that there. But is it playing at the same level that it did this time last year when they started to really take off?
getting there, not there yet, but it's pretty darn close. I've been impressed how Jason Shivers has taken over this defense, and he's switched some things. The players have said that, but he has. There was the huge fear that, oh my goodness, this defense is going to be brutal without Chris Jones, and I think we are now leaning over to, okay, Chris Jones was a good coach, but he was a good coach.
Yep.
So's Craig Dickinson.
Chris Jones was a defensive. We use the word genius. He could do things on defense that I think Jason Shivers hasn't stopped doing, but
he could do it until 3rd and 5 in the 2017 East Final.
Yes.
And then James Wilder Jr. makes a catch.
On perhaps the best linebacker we've seen in a couple of years.
Sam McGuavin, one of the.
So it was a Chris Jones defense that was on the field when the Riders couldn't make the play that would have put him in a Grey Cup. So don't forget that.
It's true. Very true.
Yeah, but and then,
boy, did I hear from people when I wrote that 2 years ago. But it's true.
It is.
You're paying Chris Jones all this money to be your defensive coordinator, and you need your defense to make one stop to get to the Grey Cup. That's what that's when you cash in on having Chris Jones, and they blew it.
So they have
Cody Fajardo scored to keep him out of the Grey Cup.
The running back is running the rear well, and he's on coverage on one linebacker. And which linebacker would you pick to want to have coverage on James Wilder? So, and it was a great pass. And I'm not saying you're wrong.
You still got to make the play.
I still got to make the play.
You've got a
McGuavin was
defensive
one
guru
arm away from making that play.
They went with a 3-man rush, and they got burned.
I think with that offense and Ricky Ray throwing the ball, I'm sorry, Rob, but that was a Ricky Ray. He lost to a Hall of Famer on that play. He lost to a Hall of Famer with a beautiful, perfect place pass right over. I think it was the right defense. He had the right defense. He had the right player in the right spot, and Ricky Ray threw another Ricky Ray dime.
And he had time to do so because they rushed 3.
Well, okay, you can go back to that.
If he doesn't rush 3, Ricky Ray
But
probably
we always
eats him up.
picture Ricky Ray's big passes are those long, deep ones he throws those, and that little. That,
the little.
That, not a little, but.
How did I get in that tangent?
The corner route with Jason Tucker was something special to watch with the Eskimos with Ricky Ray and Jason.
I loved
Tucker.
watching that.
Did you watch the Touchdown Atlantic? Did you guys get any sense of? Do we have a sense of Halifax and expansion?
Is it going to be Halifax or is it going to be Moncton? Where exactly are they thinking of putting this?
And they didn't sell out.
It's going to be Moncton. If not Moncton permanently. But if they want to go as quickly as they want to go, it's got to be Moncton. There's no way they're going to get the Halifax City Council and everything done and the stadium built until maybe 2023. Yeah. So if they want to start by 2021, it's going to have to be Moncton for a few years, which would be interesting because I think somewhat might benefit Halifax if you build the fan base in Moncton. Is it like, could you make it into a Saskatoon group that travels down to Halifax when that team comes to fruition if it comes to fruition in Halifax?
But there was
or does it backfire into the Moncton fans get angry when you suddenly yank a team from them after 2 years?
I don't know if there's that many.
It'll be understood. How
far is Moncton from Halifax?
It's like 2.5, 3 hours, something like that.
It's a drive.
Oh yeah, it's similar. Someone told me it's similar to like PA to Regina, I think, and some people make that trip.
There's a good report on CTV. The guy talked about how they're not keen on building a stadium and spending there's a lot of other things that need to be done. I couldn't list them all, but I don't think there's a real keenness on the other side of the football field. The football people want it.
Yes.
I don't think the Halifax and the smarter people than you and I.
Yeah. Halifax Council, I watched the council meeting last year when they were debating this and the finances. I don't know that I'm that interested in the CFL. I sat through 2 hours of Halifax Council
meeting.
We
have a word for that. It starts with an N and ends with a D.
Nerd. Nye?
Nerd.
No, yeah, Nye. That one works. And there was a lot of, hey, I'd love a football team in Halifax, but I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
So if they want to put up the money, come on in. But that's not going to happen. Nobody is going to come in with that much bank for a CFL team and not get money from the province and the city. The mayor's on board, and this is starting to become the question. Councils aren't there forever. Mayors aren't there forever. You have a mayor now who is in favor of this. Now's the time, and I think this is starting to push a little bit, just in case something happens in an election and all of a sudden then a mayor comes in who's not too keen, or a council comes in with even more people not in favor of it. So the time is now for Halifax. But it better start to move this week. They're meeting again or presenting the administrator with a report. And then it will go to council near the end of the year, I'm to understand, with a further report. But now we're into 2020 already. And they're going to have to start in Moncton if they want to get started sooner rather than later.
And I had another brilliant thought this morning. This is a rare Sunday game. You think about the season. I think it's the only one left. I meant to check that before I came here.
That's it. That's it. Sunday, Monday, and the rest of the season. Thank
Yay.
goodness the CFL has finally done this.
Yeah.
The rest of the season, it is Friday and Saturday.
I like the triple headers. Yeah, I think they're. But I kind of, Craig Dickinson said on any given Sunday, and I wanted to correct him. No, sorry, Craig. It's any given Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or
Sunday, maybe even a Monday.
even a Monday if it's a long weekend. But I think I'm getting to like it. I was trying to book my travel, looking on going away Saturdays and coming home Sundays to see. And I know Rob likes that because we get to see more NFL. And they're not, if they don't have a lot of people in the stadium, which just seems to be a bit of a trend, not a lot. People aren't going to say automatically say it's because you went head to head with the NFL. You went head to head with college. That's not as much of a conflict, but I think they show that. And looking at this, and I like how the schedule, and they've done this, it's division rivalry heavy in the second half. And that's why we get all these games. Riders love having lots of home games in the summer. They're not as keen to have home games in the fall when it's colder and stuff. And
I like these Saturdays with 3 games.
Yeah.
Last Saturday with 2 games, I just sat there and gained 48 pounds. Add another game, add another chin. That's fine with me. I like the fact that they now have the ability to turn a day of the week into a let's just vegetate and watch the CFL if I want, without infringing upon Sunday and Denver losing.
This is what I think the CFL should. I'm not really keen on the 9 hours of CFL football. I like it as a football fan, but I start to believe that the Canadian Football League, with their television partner TSN, should put games up against each other. TSN 1 and 2. You have this game here, this game here. It's like the NFL. What do you do on NFL Sundays? You get to pick your game, and if you have the Sunday Ticket or Red Zone or DAZN or whatever it is, this game sucks. I'm going to turn it over to another one and watch that one instead. Right now in the CFL on Saturdays with a triple header, you have to sit through 35-3 and wait for the next game. Hopefully that one's not a blowout, because how many people are going to wait for the 9-hour game? You put them up against each other.
What if you have 2 classics opposite one?
Hey, them's the breaks, kid.
They need more programming than that. If you're going to take basically 6, you'd be taking, 12 hours of programming? That would take? How many hours?
Well, for the CFL week for 4 games, it's 12 hours.
So you're putting 6 of them against each other?
Chew up as much time as you can, because otherwise it's Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I know. I love Major League Soccer. I love the highlights.
I would like to see the option.
That's a good idea, though.
The option for sports fans, if it's a blowout and they don't want to watch anymore, to be able to turn over to another CFL game and keep them engaged in the CFL. Because I don't think the average fan is dedicated to 9 hours of football. 6 is pushing it. 3 for sure. But if they have an option, if it's a blowout, or they can turn it to another game.
If you only got an 81 regular season games overall, why have them opposite one another when you don't have to? Why compete with yourself? Why cannibalize your audience? That's the risk you're running.
Puts a good point, because also, we were on the bye week last week, and I was thinking I had a couple of movies I wanted to watch, but I wanted to watch CFL. So I couldn't figure out when unlike Rob, who stays up till, when do you go to bed?
I went to bed at 6 a.m.
All right, so an early night for Rob.
It's now noon.
An early night for Rob. But there's other entertainment things out there. Maybe it clears the room for people to focus and do their stupid things like watch a movie or something like that.
I just in the future of the CFL, I wonder if there's room for that. But also in 3 years or whatever it is, another television partner to kind of compete a little bit and go to not only an exclusive television, but have another partner come in to push TSN. They push back with this and maybe build more features, because it just feels complacent right now. When you're watching CFL football, it's the same graphics, it's the same look.
Panel.
It's not so much the panel. I think the CFL has a strong panel. Hank edition is good. Hank's I like Milt. I think Matt Dunnigan just provides that Southern drawl type take.
David Sanchez offers it.
Yeah.
Some people say there isn't enough coaching influence on there, and they have Mike Benavides.
They tried with Paul Lapalisse a few years ago,
and Benavides has shown up every once in a while. But.
So I think there's room for improvement, and I wonder what the future of the CFL is, because I see those 9-hour triple headers and I go, could you move that to 6 and have 2 games up against each other? So the second option to the CFL is the CFL.
What time is the touchdown Atlantic here? 10 a.m.?
10 a.m., yeah.
Did you get up for that?
No. But I was watching by the third quarter.
Yeah, me too. Did something else and caught up.
Every now and then we ask, weekly we ask for questions, and I want to get this in before I forget, because
I got to go.
The rider practice is looming, and Jamie's show begins in 3 hours as we record this. And I understand there's some new wrinkles to the show. Would you like to talk about the new green zone?
Yeah, it's the same old green zone.
Or an augmentation to the green zone.
A new addition. So... Greg Moore, who some know in the community, we're calling him Wheels on the show. I've known him for a couple of years now, and I've gotten to quite like this young man. He's not that young, but and
they're all young compared to us,
and
us, not excluding you.
And we've been having a good time and hanging out and getting to know each other, and we're having fun. It's going to be not a different show. It's just going to be some added flavor, and I think a little quicker pace and more fun, and I hope people enjoy it on their drive home from 3 to 6.
So who have you cut to get them on?
Nobody.
Oh, you're keeping them all?
Keeping them all.
All right, so it's gonna be, how's Warren Woods going to get his rant about trains in?
Oh, he'll get it in. He'll find a way. Just wait.
And Daryl just rant about everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty good.
We have a question from a great viewer, Ken Curry, one of the most avid cyclists Ken, I think every day gets up, cycles from his home to Peru and then back, and then emails me. Ken is an amazing guy, and I hope to have the opportunity to meet him the next time he's in town for a game. Anyway, Ken wants to know about the machinations of the negotiation list and how it works. How does the negotiation list work? How do we get people on it, and who keeps track of it? Are they all Americans, or can there be Canadians on it too? Both of you are infinitely smarter than I, judging by our comparative wardrobes. Please answer the question for this great man, Ken.
Jamie, you take the first. I'll hand off to you, and then you can pass.
Okay, if I get anything wrong, Murray can correct me. But the negotiation list is a list of players that every CFL team puts players on the list. They could be in college. Austin Davis of the Leader Post was actually on a negotiation list once by Don Matthews, the son of Daryl Davis. Put him on when he was 10 years old or something like that. And it's submitted to the league, and the league gets the submissions and the deletions, and it's a working, and it gives the teams exclusive rights to negotiate contracts with players. Now, of course, with the American college players, they can't do that until they're out of college, but they're there until they're out of college and can negotiate. They can be on there for as long as possible. Yes, there can be Americans and Canadians on the negotiation list, but it's a moving document that might have changed 3 minutes ago for all we know.
And
because
Canadians
it's
are rare.
Secret except for the 10 names they released.
And Canadians are pretty rare. If you're a Canadian put on that list, and I'm not quite sure why. I think it's just because Canadians, you can draft them and you can. But I think Brendan Tamman, our esteemed columnist, hit it in his columnist. He said he saw Matt Nichols practicing, thought, oh boy, I'd like to get this guy on the list, and saw someone else on the list, had him already listed. And
it's not unusual for players to be on different teams. Weston Dressler started out on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers negotiation list. Yeah. Brendan Tamman dropped him. Eric Tillman added him. Darian Durant started out in the Ottawa Renegades negotiation list. When the Renegades folded, the CFL had a negotiation list dispersal draft picked up by Hamilton, and then his rights were traded to Saskatchewan in the Kerry Joseph trade.
Now, people want that list always made public.
Yes.
And for many, many reasons, one of the reasons is a secrecy. I'm not sure. Do you have to ask a player to go on your NIG list?
No.
So you can,
sometimes they don't know they're on there.
So yeah, and they don't. So maybe it gives the player a advantage in negotiations or with other teams and stuff, but they don't
put it on the web.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
Why the secrecy?
Especially with players in college bowl games coming up.
Yep. But that release in 10 is a start.
Sure.
And how many of those names you recognize other than
and the reason it's not public is because, as I said, it can change. 24 hours after 24 hours, they remove a guy, they add a guy, and it changes all the time. So do you really want to keep that document? Can you keep it up to date and accurate on the website? How often do you read the
CFL transactions and go, well, that's old. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's new, or that's really, really old, or something like that. Sometimes the CFL isn't as adept keeping up on things like that.
But I think for the nerds, they can... Sure. They can make sure they're up to date on the prospects that could be coming to Saskatchewan. Because wouldn't it be cool when Weston Dressler is on a negotiation list and you see that he's playing in a bowl game to watch him go, ooh, a lot of people would have known a lot more about Weston Dressler before he came to Saskatchewan, that training camp in 2008, than did if that was public.
I've been waiting to use this. I wish I could pretend that this is a spontaneous comment, but the end of the show is nigh. Murray, any final thoughts before we let you get to practice, and I might even tag along too.
I like that one too.
Wasn't that clever?
That was very clever. I never heard that before. No, I
save the podcast.
Maybe
Mark.
I can show a little sort of personality here. I love Labor Day weekend. I love going to the stadium. I love going to the park early. I love the atmosphere, the love between the Riders and Blue Bombers fans. It kind of reaffirms me and reminds me that I'm pretty fortunate to have this job and get to cover this team in this league, and it's a pretty good weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. I've just assigned you five extra stories then because of
your
abiding affection for this. Jamie, anything you'd like to add?
I hope there's another classic moment at Labor Day. I hope there's another Rocky Butler. I hope there's another Kerry Joseph run up the middle. Maybe it's 52-0 like it was, 2012? When Joe Mack stormed into the Bombers locker room after the game, the general manager, and ripped his team.
Something always happens Labor Day.
Yeah, and I want one of those classic games, and maybe it comes down to a Brett Lother field goal or more sprinkles of Jesus from Cody Fajardo to win the game. I love the atmosphere. I love when it's close, and I love when it's a game in 10 years we're still talking about.
Near or at the Nadir in the Joe Mack era, somebody said that the Banjo Bowl should be called the Ban-Joe Bowl. That was such a great line. I wish I'd thought of it. Murray McCormick, thank you so much. As always, Jamie and I, it's been a great pleasure to have you with us as always, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I don't remember my name at the moment, but thank you so
hang
much.
on, Rob.
Maybe
we should get a pro to read
this,
it. I got to read it. Hang on here. Because I think if the football nerds are still paying attention to this now, because they're the ones getting to this last hour. Hang on. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review and a 5-star rating. It helps us grow the podcast. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, which Rob and I still don't have any idea what it is. Or wherever you've
had surgery, you should know Stitcher.
Or wherever I had Staples. Or wherever you get your podcasts.
I don't think you can get podcasts at Staples.
Okay. If you'd like to send us a question, you can email Rob at rvanstone@postmedia.com, and as we show today, we'll read it on the show. You can follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Vanstone, Murray at MurrayLP, Jamie and I
at Jamie and I.
At Jamie and I. And that's it.
Whoops. Sorry. That was some music. I've been reprimanded for doing so. For Murray, for Jamie, I'm Rob. Thank you so much, and we'll do this again next week if I'm allowed to. Take care.